World War I, English, World War is the one or World War is a first, also known as the First World War or War, Great War, is a global war that lasted from the 28th of July 1914 to the 11th of November 1918, was thoughtfully described as a war to end all wars. It led to mobilization. More than 70 million military personnel, including 60 million Europeans, made it one of the largest wars in history. It was also one of the deadliest conflicts in history. An estimated 9 million deaths and 13 million civilians were killed as a direct result of the war, while the genocide and the 1918 Spanish flu epidemic resulted in another 17 to 100 million deaths worldwide. On June 28, 1914, Gavrilo Principe, a Serb of Bosnian Yugoslav nationalist, was assassinated. Archduke Franz Fairfax, great joy heir to the Austro-Hungarian city of Sarajevo, has led to a crisis. July in response, Austria-Hungary. An ultimatum was given to Serbia on the 23rd of July. Serbia's response has failed to satisfy the Austrians, and both sides went to war. A network of coordinated partners has expanded the crisis from bilateral problems in Balkans until the problem is related to most of Europe. In July 1914, the European powers were split into two alliances, a trilateral alliance consisting of France, Russia and the British, and a tri-alliance of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. The tri-alliance was only a natural defense, keeping Italy away from the war until April 1915, when joining Allied after the deterioration of relations with Austria-Hungary. Russia felt the need to provide support to Serbia and approve a partial mobilization of troops. After Austria-Hungary occupied Belgrade, the Serbian capital, on the 28th of July, a full mobilization of Russian troops was announced in the evening of the 30th of July. And Germany has done the same. While Germany have urged Russia to cancel the Czech mobilized troops within 12 hours when Russia does not comply with the request. Germany declared war on Russia on August 1st in support of Austria-Hungary. Following on the 6th of August, France ordered a full mobilization of troops to provide support to Russia on the 2nd of August. Germany's strategy of war on two fronts with France and Russia was quickly gathering large armies in the west to defeat France in 6 weeks. It then shifted to the east before Russia could fully mobilize its troops. What is known is that the latter plans firmly on August 2nd, Germany has called for move freely through Belgium, which was a key element in achieving a swift victory against France when the claim was rejected. German forces invaded Belgium on August 3rd and declared war on France the same day. The Belgian government has called Treaty of London 1839, and to comply with the obligations under this treaty the British therefore declared war on Germany on August 4th. On August 12th, the British and French also declared war on Austria-Hungary. On August 23rd, Japan sided with the British. It occupied German territories in China and the Pacific in November 1914. The Ottoman Empire has entered the war by being on the side of the Central Powers. It opened up fronts in the Caucasus, Mesopotamia and the Sinai Peninsula. War is fought in the colonial territories of each of the great powers, spread their conflicts to Africa and around the world. Allied as the unification of Austria-Hungary, Germany and its allies became known as Central Powers. The German invasion of France was halted in Battle of Marne, and in late 1914 the Western Front entered war of deterioration. The trenches were excavated, a long route with little change until 1917, Eastern Front. Contrary which were exchanged by very large territories. In 1915 Italy joined the Allies and opened on the Alps front, Bulgaria joined the Central Powers in 1915 and Greece joined the Allies in 1917, which expanded the war in the Balkans. The United States was initially neutral. Although still neutral after the sinking of American merchant ships by German submarines, it became the most important supplier of war supplies to the Allies. Germany's declaration that the Navy will continue to attack neutral ships, and it has been revealed that Germany had tried to incite Mexico to initiate a war with the United States. The United States therefore declared war on Germany. On April 6, 1917, untrained American troops had yet to begin their journey to the front in large numbers until the middle of 1918, but the armed forces outside the United States, which eventually reached 2 million soldiers. Although Serbia was defeated in 1915 and Romania joined the Allies in 1916, it was defeated in 1917. No superpower was overthrown. From the war until 1918, the February Revolution of 1917 in Russia replaced the Tsarist power by provisional government, but continued dissatisfaction with the wastefulness of the war led to the October Revolution, the founding of the Soviet Socialist Republic and the signing of the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. The new government in March 1918 ended Russia's involvement in the war. Germany now took control of Eastern Europe and moved many of its combat troops to the Western Front. New strategy. The German offensive in March 1918 was initially successful. The Allies retreated and stood. The last German reserve forces were exhausted. With 10,000 fresh American troops arriving every day, the Allies drove the Germans back into 100 Days Offensive. The attacks continued, which the Germans could not retaliate against. Subsequently, the Central Powers announced their withdrawal, first Bulgaria, then the Ottoman Empire, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. When the Allies were defeated, a revolution took place in home country and the army was no longer willing to fight. Emperor Wilhelm abdicated on November 9, and Germany signed an armistice on November 11, 1918. This ended the battle. World War I was a major turning point in the world's political, cultural, economic and social climate. The war and its sudden effects ignited many revolutions and insurgency. The Big Four, British, France, the United States and Italy, imposed their terms on the defeated superpowers in the treaties agreed on. The well-known Paris Peace Conference of 1919 was German Peace Treaty, Treaty of Versailles. Ultimately, as a result of the war, Austro-Hungarian Empire, German Empire, Ottoman Empire and the Russian Empire had already collapsed, and many new states were formed from the rest of them. The Allies will be victorious, and the formation of the League of Nations during a peace conference with the aim of preventing future wars. World War II. It followed in the next 20 years.